Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Sean. Thank you very much for joining us for this edition of the program. The government has proclaimed the remaining elements of the Administration of Justice Indictable Proceedings Act. With it, there will no more be preliminary inquiries. In fact, according to the Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines, who celebrated such, he says, and I quote, "Time is saved, justice will be swifter, evidential integrity is better preserved," end quote. Now, part of this will see evidence uploaded digitally to the judiciary's evidence management platform, case center, and prevented digitally in court. Now, on Monday morning, we welcomed to the program Attorney at Law Fareed Ali to discuss such. We had a very good introduction, understanding what preliminary inquiries are in the context of TNT were, and we also got into a very good introductory conversation as per sufficiency hearings. This morning, we are going to continue such discussions as we basically dissect and analyze the elements of sufficiency hearings. So I welcome once more to the program Attorney at Law Fareed Ali. He's with us again this morning. Thank you very much for being with us again.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mr. Shah.
Well, it's certainly a pleasure to continue the conversation. A lot was said on Monday, and as you can see, Mr. Ali takes this work very seriously because he has a lot of his notes with him this morning. As we continue to dissect and understand what sufficiency hearings are, one of the major elements even noted was that of evidence and how evidence is presented in sufficiency hearings.
What we need to note that is the bloodline of every criminal investigation is, for all intents and purposes, evidence. Evidence comes in different shapes and forms. It's like a puzzle. If it is a crime takes place, and let me use a rough example. I made my way through what we term the avenue, up Colville Street, across the avenue, up Gattaca Street. If I were to have entered these premises with a weapon on me, enter these premises, sit at the desk with you, and then proceeded during the course of this discussion here to inflict bodily harm on your person. Let us say blood is spilled, you fall to the ground, and then I make my way out of the premises, or attempt to do so. The cameramen try to intervene, I find my way past them, get into my vehicle and leave. The first thing that happens is the police would be informed as to what is happening. They would come here and they would cordon the area off where I inflicted the harm on you. Everything in this area here would be of evidential value. The police cannot take any chances. They come here in what we call PPE, which is personal protection equipment. That is the all-white gowns. And they process the scene. So this entire set would now become a crime scene. Mm-hmm. In approaching the crime scene here, one doesn't limit the investigation to the area where the crime took place or where the crime was executed in its finality. One must prove that I arrived here and the route I took, all of that forms part of the case, because when the evidence is led in the courtroom, I didn't parachute onto this set. I wasn't cannonballed into the scene. So my vehicle and all that I passed, that has to be captured somewhere. So all the CCTV footage or CCTV cameras that are set up by the state in the avenue, on Gattaca Street, on Tragreed Road, on any street in and around the place, that CCTV footage is captured. That becomes what we call video evidence. Mm-hmm. The processing of video evidence through a courtroom, within a courtroom and into the trial process, takes a certain format. Very often civilians out there, they put video cameras inside of their homes, capturing the garage area, capturing the front of their yards, capturing the streets parallel to their house. That in itself is capturing CCTV footage. That is evidence. Mm-hmm. But in order for that footage to be admitted and adduced into evidence in the courtroom, it has to be qualified. In other words, evidence is not just a piece of paper blowing through Woodford Square. Evidence is not just footage that is captured on CCTV cameras or security cameras. that footage has to be qualified in order to be accepted into the courtroom. So what happens is simply this. A crime takes place, the police, and in using the example here, the police would come to the premises here, they would cordon the area, they would cordon outside on the street, they would try to gather all the CCTV footage that captures my vehicle on the way to the premises here. Then the footage that was captured, they would have to upload it onto a flash drive and then take it to the cyber unit and upload it onto a CD that is a non-rewritable one. In other words, you have CDs that you can rewrite, you can tape over and so on, a non-rewritable CD, and it's a brand new one. So that becomes what you call the master copy. And from the master copy, you can now reproduce working copies. Working copies now are made available to the court, and the court will be informed, well, we have a master copy, but we have working copies which captures my vehicle on its journey to the premises. So that in itself locates me in my journey to here. Then they would look at fingerprints, DNA inside of the compound. So if I sat on your couch outside, they would brush the chair for fingerprints or any sort of DNA that links me to the chair. They would also try to process my footsteps in terms of me getting to this point here. Then I would have touched the desk, I would have touched my books, I may have touched a bottle, the Blue Waters bottled water here. So the DNA places me on the scene. Now, you can't take anything for granted. It's not simply because remember, you're dead. I inflicted some sort of harm. It may have been serious harm. Initially, it looked like simple bodily harm, but by the time you got to the hospital, you're passed. So you're not there anymore to offer that evidence. The evidence now is given up to science and fingerprints, and maybe the camera guys who are looking in, they would have to give witness statements. So in piecing the case together, we must look at the puzzle that is pieced together in order to complete a picture. So we have CCTV footage, we have DNA, we have fingerprint evidence. These are the real things that could be actually adduced into a courtroom and used. The work of a master and the work of the court is really to look at not just the statements given, because on the last day we spoke of, we would take written statements from individuals as to what they see. Now, a written statement is important because what it serves to do is it gives an account of the events as the individual saw it. So whoever saw and witnessed what is happening here and witnessed my inflicting harm on you, they must give an account, and they must give an account as they saw it, meaning that what they see with their eyes, what they smell with their nose. In other words, whatever their five senses capture, they reduce it into writing on paper. If there is an individual who has not seen anything, and I'm sticking to the example of me inflicting harm on you. If there's an individual who has not witnessed anything that transpired between you and myself, they are not witnesses of truth. They're not even witnesses of fact. Witnesses of truth and witnesses of fact are witnesses who actually witnessed something that happened, and they saw, and they are what we call IC witness. They see things. Witnesses of fact will also be an IC witness, meaning they see and factually they relate what they see. But if it is somebody here screaming on the street, and that would be you calling out or bawling out as I inflict harm, they are not witnesses of fact in terms of they seeing anything. They simply would have heard screams coming, and irregular screams coming from the building structure, and they said, but that is something, it sounds like somebody's in pain. So that amounts to what we call circumstantial evidence. The marriage of the CCTV footage that reflects me driving and parking in front of the building, the marriage of the DNA that is found on the couch, the DNA that is found on the desktop, the fingerprints that they locate here, the witness statements given by the cameramen that would have been watching everything, the marriage of everything comes together. And so the screams that the individual on the street would have heard on the pavement in front of the building, they would give witness evidence as to hearing that scream, and they said, well, we know the scream, we've heard Keaton Shah bawl out already, and that sound resonates with me that it was him. So it's very possible a witness statement would be taken from that individual also. And he or she would offer that evidence in a courtroom, and the concatenation and cocktail of all of these elements coming together forms the fabric of a case. Witness statements, an exhibit, which is a DMO's report or death certificate that speaks to the cause of death, the DNA, the fingerprint, the CCTV footage, all of these elements come together to breathe life into an investigation. And that is why the police would cordon the area to ensure that nobody contaminates the scene. So they wear PPE in order to ensure that they themselves, in walking from one point to the next, don't disturb the footprints that I would have left walking in here, or maybe anything that could be associated with my presence here. Mm-hmm. Now, any intelligent defense attorney would, in the breadth of his client being caught red-handed, would have to think outside the box now. He'd be thinking, you know, they have my man in terms of DNA, they have him in terms of fingerprints, they have CCTV footage of him arriving here, we have two witnesses in terms of the cameraman who saw it. We perhaps have the public looking in here because it's carrying live on TV. So they're simply saying, well, this man can't walk out of this. The defense attorney may say, you know what, perhaps he could have a mental health issue. And that mental health issue may have impaired his mind on such a level that he doesn't understand the nature and the consequences of what he's doing. So the harm that he would have inflicted, or I myself would have inflicted on Keaton Shah, may be one where I am not master of mind, I'm not in control of my person. So mechanically, I'm committing the act. But mentally, I don't have the mental intent to cause harm. I simply don't understand the nature and the consequences of the action that I took when I approached you.
Is that important that a defendant must understand the nature, the magnitude of the alleged crime?
Well, that is what we call one of the ingredients of the offense. When we talk criminality, we're talking two things. There must be an act that was committed, and the act must be responsible for harm caused to an individual, and the act must be perpetrated by an individual and must be proven that the act was perpetrated by, in this instance, by myself. And, but I must also do that with the mental element that I understand what I'm doing, and I understand that what I'm doing is wrong, and I am the cause of the harm that you suffer. So in other words, the marriage of what we call in law actus reus and mens rea, which is the act of causing harm, that is fueled by the mental element to cause the harm, meaning that I maliciously and intentionally cause harm. Murder is the intention to cause serious harm or the intention to kill. So I may not intend to kill when I incised you, but I may have intended to cause serious harm, because if I use a knife is not a tennis ball. Mm-hmm. A knife will cause an incision and cause you to bleed and cause a wound and so on. So they examine factually what has happened. They examine the fact that an instrument was used that is a sharp object. But back to my example, when we look at all the evidence that pins me to the criminality, the only defense I may have in this moment is to say that I lack criminal intent, that I simply didn't understand what I was doing. And if it can be proven, so what the defense attorney may do is make an application in court to have his client assessed at a public health institution, in this case, the St. Anne's Hospital. So St. Anne's now would have a forensic psychiatrist or a forensic psychiatric doctor sit and chat with me and ask me questions about myself. So he would try to orient me in time. Now, if I'm of the view that, you know, I was not inflicting grievous bodily harm, I was trying to attract your attention, and in that moment, I didn't see you as a human being. I formed the view that you were a monster about to attack me, meaning not human, and what I did was in defense of my person. Then in some outrageous way, I did not understand what I was doing. But it all comes down to the preparation of the case and a determination as to whether you as a human being or myself as a human being understood what I was doing. Now that is evidence. We need to understand this. When it is an individual commits an act, it's a serious act, it's a serious crime, it's a serious criminal offense. And the police, having done the investigation and gathered the evidence in the ways that we just described, when that happens, the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions, is consulted because the police does the investigation, they prepare a file, they send it to the DPP's office, the DPP looks at it and said, this is a straight case of murder, right? Or at least prima facie in looking at it, or at first glance, examining what it is. He is of the view that a charge for murder ought to be preferred. The police of themselves, when it's serious criminal offenses, cannot prefer a charge without consultation with the DPP's office.
Okay.
So the DPP gives instructions that the charge be laid. A charge is laid in keeping with the me contravening certain provisions of the Criminal Law Act. What happens now is the Criminal Procedure Act comes into view, meaning that the Criminal Law Act talks about the offenses, the Criminal Procedure Act talks about how the criminality that is now assigned to me is going to be piloted before a court in order for the matter to be resolved. So we have an initial hearing, and this is where the sufficiency hearing starts. What they're proposing now is they've changed the blueprint, they've changed the approach to how matters are being dealt with in an effort to make it more efficient, to collate it in such a way that justice is seen to be done. So at the initial hearing, the accused person and the prosecutor, meaning the so-called criminal and the prosecutor, the police who's conducting the matter before the court, and in the case of murder, it will not be a police officer, it will be
DPP,
a lawyer from the DPP's office, what they call a state counsel. The state counsel would come to court, the accused would be brought to court by the police, the master would appear before, you're appearing before a master, and the master would read the charge to the accused and indicate to him that you on Friday, the 13th of December, 2023, you at Gattaca Street and whatever road to the north or the west of the structure that we're in, committed an act of serious bodily harm, or in this case, committed an act of murder on Keaton Shah. She will indicate that I'm not called upon to plea because what I'm charged with is a serious offense, and what we are going to engage in is a sufficiency hearing, and all of that will be explained to me. Now, if I have an attorney present, then it's a benefit. If I don't have an attorney present, they still have to read the charge.
Does the defendant, according to the law, because you just said whether or not a lawyer is present, that suggests that it is not mandatory, there's no obligation for a defendant to have an attorney at law present at the sufficiency hearing?
An individual has a choice to have an attorney represent him or not. So when she asks of him whether he or she, meaning the master, asks of the individual whether he has an attorney, she would inform him, and Section 19 of the Administration of Justice Act speaks to that he's entitled to have an attorney. If he has one, she would give him a date by which he ought to have the attorney present in court with him if he doesn't come to court with an attorney. So let us say his family hasn't retained an attorney, or he cannot afford an attorney. He comes without an attorney. He will be informed that he has the right to legal representation, and if he says that he wants a lawyer, she would say, well, I'm giving you a date by which you are required to hire a lawyer, retain a lawyer, and have him appear before me and to act on your behalf. If not, and he says, well, I can't afford a lawyer, then she contacts the legal aid and inform, when I say she, the office of, would do the necessary to ensure the legal aid is informed that this individual is requesting representation, and a date will be set for that legal aid attorney to appear. If the individual says that I don't want an attorney, I want to do this matter, represent myself, a record will be made that this is the request of the individual. So you always have a choice. Under Section 5, subsection 2F of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, it speaks to an individual always having the presumption of innocence when a charge is laid. And he's always presumed innocent. And what transpired thereafter, after the presumption of innocence, is simply that he will then embark on a fair hearing. So part of the fairness is to ensure that he has representation, and therefore whatever is transpiring in the courtroom is not something that flies above his head or something that he cannot process. So the sufficiency hearing at that stage, orders are given. What we call is there's a schedule order that is made, and the master would indicate to the prosecution, you've brought this man here, you've charged him for a criminal offense, a serious criminal offense, that potentially carries the penalty of death. If, and I'm saying potentially purely on the basis of we're still dealing with the presumption of innocence. A case has not been established in the courtroom yet. She hasn't been able to exercise her mind on anything before her. She's not determining innocence or guilt. She's determining whether a jury should hear this. But she has to operate in the framework of, I have to look down the road. So, and down the road meaning the ultimate objective, which is if it is he is committed to stand trial, then he has to face a jury and then may have to answer to the charge at another forum where innocence or guilt will be determined. But essentially what is taking place by the master is the master has now to instruct the prosecution. I want all the statements and the exhibits that accompany each statement presented in this courtroom within 3 months. So I'm giving you 3 months to bring all the evidence, the CCTV footage, which will involve bringing a working copy of the CD of evidence, which captured me driving here, bring the DNA evidence, bring the fingerprint evidence, bring the witnesses that are associated with same. So when it is the police have this to investigate this crime, the statement, taking of statements is important. It's very, very important. The first respondents to an alleged crime would be the officers who would have arrived here and cordon the area. It's important that they tell the camera, in as much as you attach to Mr. Shah, don't go and cry over his body there, right? Because you're disturbing the scene. And they would keep the cameramen away, keep the staff in this building away, and ensure that the only persons who have access to here are the correct people, which is the crime scene investigators. Those are the ones wearing the PPE. Now, each individual will be required to give a statement, each crime scene officer, as to what part they played. You would also have to have a photographer come in. So the photographer will stand, let's say, at the doorway. He would say, I stood in a southerly position with camera lens facing north or camera lens facing northeast, and captured the image of a set, and placed on the ground beyond the set is one East Indian male, 5'9", who appear to weigh 150 pounds, and then they perhaps describe you, and then they talk about the position of your body and so on. Now, in treating with a crime scene, it's very important to maintain the sanctity of the scene, because defense attorneys, they thrive on small details. If it is the fingerprints weren't properly secured on the countertop, and there are other fingerprints there, the defense attorney simply may be trying to cast aspersions as to whether the prints on the table really can be relied upon, because we are getting several prints. Let us say the video footage is destroyed at some point in time, meaning that yes, there was video footage of me inflicting harm, but that evidence is not admitted into the courtroom because some technicality in terms of adducing it, that argument was won by the defense, where they simply say, listen, we are objecting to the admission of the CCTV footage because the footage in itself, we were not satisfied that the proper procedure for uploading the footage onto flash drive and onto a master copy and then a working copy, that sequence was followed. In fact, what we have piloted into the courtroom is no sequence at all. We simply have a CD saying that, oh, this has captured the incident. We have no statement to substantiate how one went about uploading the CD, uploading the footage onto the flash drive, then to the working then to the master copy, then to the working copy. So in other words, the trail of custody in relation to the garnering of the footage wasn't properly followed.
Right.
So technically, we cannot put trust and confidence in something, and it becomes what we deem inadmissible for want of impropriety in handling the footage in terms of putting it together. The same sort of procedural approach has to be taken with regard to other forms of evidence. Every evidence has to be tested before it acquires the authenticity that is required in order to have it adduced. Now, when the master says, I'm giving the prosecution at the initial hearing 3 months in order to produce this document, the position would simply be this. The individual would be in a situation where he has to get access to this material. And when he gets access, he looks at the material and he through the eyes of his attorney, sit and try to assess what's the strength of the case against him. When we look at the evidence as garnered, the defense now, having received everything within 3 months, is instructed by the master that you have 28 days, which is another month, yes, in order to produce your statements and your exhibits and come up with your witnesses who is going to represent your side of the story. So the prosecution gets 3 months in order to provide all that they gathered. And once everything is in the hands of the defense has the opportunity now to respond in kind, meaning that they would have gathered their witnesses. So you may say, well, there's a disproportionality in terms of the prosecution gets more time. But in reality, no. The defense would also be mindful of the fact that my individual is charged before the court. I better come up with a strong story. So in that 3-month period, he's waiting for disclosure to be handed to him. Or in the States, they say discovery. When that disclosure and that evidence is handed to him, by then he would have already started to formulate in his mind what my defense is and where I'm going.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what, this is a lot. We're learning a lot this morning. We're understanding the processes this morning. So we're going to take a quick break here on the program. When we reach in, we're going to continue this discussion, this conversation on sufficiency hearings. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back on AM Prime.
Naturally to us, unstoppable energy. We use it to manifest a future. A future where energy takes new forms and is used in new ways for all of us. The new age of energy is here.
Let the Home Store turn your house into a home you love. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. And just for you this Christmas, come check us out for great gift ideas and all your Christmas decorations.
6 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at West Mall, Pennywise Plaza Chaguanas, C3 Center Branch, Christmas Store at C3 San Fernando, and Eastgate Mall, Trin City.
Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
Simons Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simons, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen, as we are speaking about sufficiency hearings this morning, which essentially replaces the preliminary inquiries. We've spoken quite a bit and gone into deep context about evidence, and the last thing we were speaking about is the amount of time, the timeline that the prosecution is given from the master of the court to submit their evidence. And the defense attorney being given 28 days, approximately 28 days to respond to such. So as we continue, Mr. Ali, evidence, how the proceedings, the sufficiency hearings will now take place, where it will take place, and how evidence is submitted or presented.
When the prosecution hands over the discovery and the disclosure to the defense in that 3-month period, the next step would be, as we indicated earlier, a 28-day period for the defense to hand their documents in. And the documents will simply be their statements, their exhibits, anything they intend to rely upon. At that stage, the master would be in possession of the prosecution side of the story and the defense side of the story. The next step is to schedule a date for the hearing to commence. At that stage, if it is the prosecution or the defense seeks more time, both of them, they may need time in order to process the proceedings in terms of they have to prepare their case or the defense has to prepare additional information, or they simply need time. The master will make an assessment as to whether it is expedient to do so, meaning that the master is not just master of the proceedings, but master of the timing of the proceedings. It will no longer, or it ought not to be piloted through the court over any extensive and profusely long period of time. Mm-hmm. The master is mindful that there are many matters in the docket. There are many matters that needs to be treated with. So she would have to hear very strong, cogent reasons from both the prosecution and the defense as to why it is you may need more time. So the issue of time has to be assessed by the master, and time could be given. It could be an additional 28 days or any other date that is convenient to the court. Once that has been dealt with, then the next step is to begin the hearing. Now, what we need to bear in mind is this. Traditionally, when an offense takes place in a community, let us say in San Juan, in Moruga, in Togo, in Tobago, mm-hmm. The matter is being ventilated in the district court nearest to, the criminal district court nearest to where the incident took place. In other words, justice must be seen to be done. That means it has to be done or executed sometimes and actualized in a very literal way. An offense takes place and the public has a right to know what is happening, to actually witness the ventilation of the matter before the court. That is why when you go to a courtroom, there's a public gallery, and the members of the families of the deceased would be present, the members of the family of the accused would be present, and they would all be sitting there to listen to the witnesses give their evidence orally, and to hear what the witnesses say, and to listen to the lawyers cross-examine witnesses, and to listen to the presentation of the evidence. And hence you have members of the media, and the members of the media now would carry in the news, just like you would have had the Vindra Kuhlman-Naipaul trial recently. And every day you would read in the newspaper what transpired. Recently we had the 6 accused police officers who were in remand in relation to the murder, or the alleged murder of 3 persons in Maruga, and that would have been carried on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
What is happening through these hearings now, meaning the sufficiency hearing, is witnesses are not being called before the court. So the evidence that is presented in the courtroom doesn't require the prosecution's formal witnesses, meaning the police officers, meaning the CSI man, the crime scene investigator coming to give evidence, the police photographer coming to give evidence, the civilian who heard you scream on the pavement coming to give evidence. No human being, by way of a witness to the proceedings, giving his evidence. What is happening is their statements are now being ventilated and looked at and evaluated by the master. So this sufficiency hearing is really dehumanizing the process. It is making it very impersonal. So the public now may hear that they charged Farid Ali for a criminal offense, and then they would hear that Farid Ali was discharged of the offense, meaning simply that, as they say on the street, he won the case. So in other words, the public simply wouldn't be getting the opportunity to come and sit in any public gallery and hear anything. There isn't any witness. Now, all of this saves time, because what was happening in the past is you summons a police officer to come to court to give evidence, but he's investigating a crime in another district on the day that they want him to offer his evidence in the district court. And then when you get him now, he's available, he gives evidence, the defense attorney says he wants him to return. He says he can't return because he's going on a holiday to the UK. He already pre-booked, and the court adjourned the matter, and they have to recall him in 2 months' time. So the adjournments that we've seen and experienced through the years were adjournments that really were a matter of fact. Things were allowed to unfold, and its natural course followed. Now, they've eliminated that possibility. No longer do we need the police officer after he has offered a statement. Remember, on the last occasion, I spoke of sworn statements.
Yes.
When it is an officer reduces his statement into writing and a civilian reduces his statement into writing, and he signs that document, he signs the document and it's dated. When he signs and dates the document, I indicated on a previous occasion that it's taken to Justice of the Peace. And the Justice of the Peace now authenticates the document after a declaration is done by the individual who's the author of the statement. And that individual would have stated that he is well aware that what he said here is to be used as evidence or offered as evidence in a courtroom, and he is declaring that everything here is the truth. And that the JP would have assimilated, having conversed with him, that he gave the statement of his own free will and wasn't forced, meaning that he wasn't bribed by the family of the deceased to offer false evidence, or he wasn't caused to do it by way of they threatening to inflict harm on his person or damage to his property. So he gives it of his own free will. Once that process is satisfied, Provision 21 of the Administration of Justice Act 2011, which has now found new life in some of the amendments here, that processing allows for his statement to be evaluated by the master without him having to come to court. So the master now would get all the 15 statements, 20 statements, and look at the statements of the prosecution, and his or her job is to determine whether there's a prima facie case established against, in my example, Farid Ali, against the criminal, against the alleged criminal, the man who it is said is responsible for the act. A prima facie case is a Latin term which more or less reflects that at first glance, me, the master, having examined the statements, having examined the forensic evidence, having seen the statements of the crime scene investigators, having satisfied myself that having looked at the death certificate or the DMO's report, having seen the real evidence in terms of the CCTV footage, I am sufficiently satisfied that the individual who I am who I'm adjudicating whether he should be committed to stand trial before a jury or not, that this individual has a case to answer to. So for the listening public, one must understand that it's a first glance hearing. The evaluation that is being performed is not an evaluation to determine whether Mr. A is guilty or not guilty. It's to determine whether the evidence gathered was sufficient to cause the master in his or her mind to form the view that we have the correct individual here, and then a committal warrant is prepared. And I or the individual who is responsible in some way and at first glance is sent to the nation's prison to await an indictment being served. And for me to answer to the charge of murder. And at that stage, at that point when the indictment is served down the road, I will be brought before a high court in order to empanel a jury for me to be arraigned. An arraignment is when the charge is read, I am asked to plea. If I plead not guilty, then the defense attorney begins to work at another forum, and that forum would be innocence or guilt determined by a jury. Now, two things I've made, points I've made here in one. No longer matters would be heard in the district courts. Those matters will now be heard before a master, either at the Port of Spain Supreme Court, the Tobago Supreme Court, and the San Fernando Supreme Court.
So centralizing it.
It's a centralized process, it's a seamless process, and it's a process that is devoid of witnesses having to come to court. So when we hear in times past that a witness has died, so a witness, let's say the cameraman would have given evidence, but he has since taken ill and he passed. It doesn't mean to say his evidence passed with him, because in they having taken a sworn statement from him, they will make an application that we are seeking to have his evidence read, or his statement read into evidence, and for the court to exercise its mind on what he said, because this witness is unable to be here because we have a death certificate that reflects he has since passed.
But so, no witness, because of the new proceedings, will not be questioned by any attorneys at a sufficiency hearing.
No witness would be called before the court unless the master is of the view that an individual ought to be called. Let us say the individual statement is not a sworn statement, it was simply a statement that he signed. It's what we call an unsworn statement. What makes the difference between a statement that is certified and signed by an individual and one that is sworn to is the process that a JP or a justice of the peace engages the individual who is the author of the statement with. So the witness will only be called or summons or a warrant taken out for his arrest to be brought to court if he refuses to present himself, if the master requests his presence and he's not making himself present. Witnesses generally will not be called because the process in the eyes of the court, the preliminary inquiry simply was too long. It was taking, too many processes were taking place. Now we need to bear this in mind. Because of crime becoming so deeply entrenched in the DNA of Trinidad and Tobago, and because of the amount of crime, the agglomeration of crime, the compendium of crime, the cocktail of criminality, given the climate that we now live in, we have had over 530 murders plus in this country up to the month of December, this current day. It is a trend that is hundreds of murders per year. That means hundreds of indictments to be served. And simply put, the 11 district courts, when they have to examine the caseload and the processing of these documents and the calling of witnesses at the preliminary inquiry level that existed as of yesterday, it was too time-consuming. And witnesses have a way of either becoming frustrated. So a witness migrates. He doesn't want to come back to Trinidad. I had an instance where two witnesses were two young children, a 9- and a 7-year-old, who witnessed the death of their father. When their father was murdered in their presence, the mother who lives in the U.S., she sent a ticket, as we would say, and they migrated to the U.S. The preliminary inquiry took 7 years to commence. By then, the 9-year-old boy is now 16, and the girl is 15. And there's a situation where they are still minors, but they don't want to come to Trinidad. So their evidence was important in terms of what they saw. So the prosecution and the DPP's office have to make arrangements to pay to send tickets for those young people to bring them to trial in order to give evidence. So it's a costly, time-consuming thing. Apart from that, they are now hesitant because they've begun a new life in the US. Their mother don't want them to come back to trial because people get killed in Trinidad. Witnesses disappear. She already lost her husband. She's not prepared to lose 2 children. So it's a situation where witnesses become frustrated by the process. They don't want to come and give evidence. So hence now we have virtual courts. We have situations where evidence can be given by way of computer-assisted evidence through virtually, where the technology allows them to beam in from wherever they are, whatever part of the world. So this process now, the science has taken us in a direction where sufficiency hearings allows for witnesses to offer evidence not just through statements, but through the science of technology. Now, what we need to understand is provision 23 of the sufficiency process, or provision 23 of the Administration of Justice Act, speaks to what a prima facie case is, which I explained earlier at first glance, whether there's enough evidence to charge the individual. What we need to bear in mind is, after the master has made a decision that we are committing the individual, this decision now must be committed to writing, the reasons for the decision. The Director of Public Prosecutions is given a copy of that order. If the master discharges the individual, the director has the ability now to look at it and say, well, you know, I don't agree with what is being said. I don't agree with the master, but the master isn't God and Lord of all things. So the DPP's office could simply get a copy of the record, which is supposed to be handed over 28 days, within 28 days of the committal or the individual being discharged. And so the master allows the individual to go say that, oh, I found no case against you here. The DPP can now go to a judge, approach a high court judge, and get a warrant for the arrest of the individual who has been discharged, who has been allowed to leave.
So the individual could
and
be
rearrest him.
That can happen.
That can happen. So if the DPP is of the view that the master got it wrong, right? The master would have assessed the evidence and there are flaws in the assessment of the evidence, and he feels very strongly about his evidence. He gets a copy of the record, which is the reasons the master gave for the discharging of the individual within 28 days, and then he goes now and before a judge, and the judge will in some way evaluate the circumstances, look at the evidence that he has, or consider the reasons the master gave for discharging the individual, and a warrant could be issued. But the judge must evaluate and assess the situation and determine whether it is fair for that to happen. A warrant will be issued, they arrest the individual and bring him back before the court, and an indictment will be served him and he will go to trial at some point in the future. So for the listening public, if it is there's a sufficiency hearing, and the victims, the family of the victims thinks that there was an injustice served because the hearing was had in such an ad hoc way, they were of the view that they weren't dealt with fairly. The DPP has the ability to appeal. And when I say the word appeal, when I use the word appeal, it's simply that he has the ability to go before a judge and seek a rearrest of the individual. Now, if at some point in time, more evidence presents itself, meaning that I indicated earlier the sufficiency hearing, initial hearing, orders are given for statements to be handed over within 3 months by the prosecution. If the prosecution comes into possession of additional evidence at some point during the lifespan before the master of the sufficiency hearing, the DPP's office can make an application to admit further evidence or to provide further evidence that would assist the master in evaluating the situation.
Admissible.
And that allows for the same in relation to the defense. So you're allowed not to call witnesses, but you're allowed at a sufficiency hearing to present your case in the best possible way. But what this new system is introducing is timelines. And the timelines simply speaks to an initial hearing and a sufficiency hearing. The initial hearing, summarily we can say, is a hearing where the charge is read, he indicates whether he wants a lawyer present, The DPP's office has given instructions to provide the evidence against him within 3 months. He has an opportunity to present his case within 28 days of receiving it. So that's 3 months plus another 28 days, it's 4 months. Then if you request further adjournments, if you can satisfy the master, there's a logical explanation as to why it is you need it or it's needed, additional time is given. If that additional time is given and at that stage everyone is ready, you can have a hearing started in 5 months. The current system, these preliminary inquiries, there are persons who are awaiting trial for 2 and 3 years. One of the more popular ones, the Andrea Barrett matter, the young clerk who would have been the subject of criminality in Arima some 3 years ago. In 2020, I believe it was January. That preliminary inquiry has not even commenced yet, and it's been 3 years. That individual is languishing in prison for 3 years without a hearing. If his matter was brought before the court yesterday or today, his position would simply be that he could get a sufficiency hearing started in 3 months, well, in 4 months, and a decision made as to whether he should be discharged and allowed to return to the free world or committed to stand trial. Now, that answers and it speaks to the processing of individuals who are currently charged. We have not been informed by the judiciary or by the parliament or the executive in some way as to what is the plan to deal with the backlog. Because if it is you ever have to commit a crime, now is the time to commit it in the context of there is a process and there is a quick process in which the matter could be ventilated. Persons who would have been in the system prior to today's date or prior to yesterday's date when the proclamation took place, their life is messed up and tied up indefinitely now. We don't know when they're going to get the hearing that they want. Because right now, it's additional masters are being retained. Some magistrates are being elevated to the position of master. So they're going to be creating voids in the district criminal courts.
Yes, yes.
And other offenses now would fall into an abyss and a long waiting line.
So there are further strains on the system. In that context, Mr. Ali, we're going to have to end it there. I want to thank you very much once more for making the time and for really educating us on what exactly is taking place there with sufficiency hearings. It really is a lot to digest. But I'm glad that we were able to get a lot in within the last hour. So thank you very much, sir.
It's a pleasure. I hope I've been of some assistance to you.
Well, certainly. And I know that a lot of the viewers would be well informed this morning following this, well, I suppose, presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on AM Prime. And when we're returning, well, it's Wild Wednesday. We'll be right back.
Here is the WESN News on the hour. I am Sarah Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. 8-year-old boy fatally stabbed in the neck. Opposition leader contemplates legal action amidst concerns over national verification exercise. And regionally, soca artist Ricardo Drew dead following a heart attack. Now for the details. Tragedy struck in Marabella as an 8-year-old boy, Noel Thomas, lost his life in a heartbreaking incident. The young boy was fatally stabbed in the neck at his home around 8:30 a.m. His 40-year-old mother, who also suffered a neck wound, was rushed to the hospital but sadly did not survive. Hollis Thomas, a security officer, and Noel were discovered in a bedroom by police officers who are still at the scene. The family recently moved to a downstairs apartment on Battle Street, Marabella, less than 1 month ago, leaving the community in shock. Opposition leader Kamla Bisasa is considering legal action in response to concerns about the status of the national verification exercise scheduled to be conducted by the Elections and Boundaries Commission. Expressing her worries during a UNC cottage meeting in the Couva North constituency, Mrs. Bisasa emphasized the significance of addressing these issues, especially in anticipation of an upcoming general election. She highlighted that officials from the EBC had met with political parties in May to discuss the comprehensive update of the country's list of electors through the mentioned exercise. Regionally, soca sensation Ricardo Drew was pronounced dead at the Celeste Bede Medical Center around noon on Tuesday. He was rushed to the hospital after being found unresponsive in his room. Drew had been scheduled to fly out of the island on Tuesday afternoon. Family members and the entertainment fraternity are gathering at the hospital following this shocking news. We will provide further details as they become available. Well, that's it. News on the hour on WESN. I am Sira Ali. Thank you for watching.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movie Town, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
It's Christmas time, and with your family you'll spend every evening watching a movie on WESN. The classics that fill your heart with merriment and cheer as we celebrate together the most wonderful time of the year.
This is my island in December.
This Christmas, WESN celebrates with you as the content capital brings the big screen classics. Gather your family and tune in to WESN from December 1st to 31st at 8 p.m. nightly for We Christmas Movie Classics.
Santa's coming to town! Santa! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him! I know him!
Only on WESN, Content Capital.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former mayor Louis Lee Singh, available at all the home store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Chaguanas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's, WESN 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook, Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Fan Zone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us this morning. So, from our very first conversation, which was very much informative, we get into another informative and hopefully not too entertaining discussion this morning. It's Wild Wednesday. I welcome to the program, ladies first, Miss Celicia Asgarali-Mead. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Good to see you again. Thanks for coming.
As always.
And this gentleman who abandoned us last week.
Yes.
Ricardo Mead. Hello.
Good to be back.
It's Wild Wednesday.
It's
folks.
Wild Wednesday.
Thank you for having us as usual.
So what do we have with he's holding on to the glass.
Yes, has that ability.
Great. Please explain who our guests are this morning.
Amphibians.
Wonderful.
Amphibians. We have a little more than 50 of them here in Trinidad, and we know almost nothing about them. So here's a little opportunity to teach us, especially this gun in front of me is quite iconic. It's so much part of our lives that we don't even really pay attention to it, you know, so many sayings, and it's just us, and, you know, it's a French name, it teaches us French. So this iconic amphibian, as it were, is a real Trini. It has a French name. The local name is a French name. It's crapaud, as we like to wrongly call the black vultures a corbeau. Yeah. So you see, the French, I have to put on my French accent to be able to say the name properly.
You got to work on that French accent.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'm quite happy with the English. I'll stick there. So the crapaud is, you know, he seems to have. They said the crack pipe was invented in Trinidad. You know that. We are credited. Yeah, we have a lot of, you know, things here on our list. Some of them not so nice. The crack pipe was invented in Trinidad. And we have a saying in Trinidad, when you do something bad or you're in trouble, crapaud, smoke your pipe.
Crapaud, smoke your pipe.
So I'm wondering if it's that kind of pipe, crapaud smoking.
Yeah.
Or are you smoking that kind of pipe and crapaud smoking that?
I really don't know.
Right? But that means you're in trouble. Things real bad for you. You understand? For example, you go to school expecting lunch, and the school feeding program ended. So your belly empty. I only watch you and say, oh, you didn't know it had lunch today? Well, crapaud, smoke your pipe. You understand? You're in a mess, as we like to say here in Trinidad. And a whole lot of other sayings related to frogs. Now, it's important to note there's a big difference between frogs over here,
That's
and
a frog.
toads. Yeah, frogs and toads.
Okay, so that is explain the difference before I even get into the names.
Quite simply put, toads can't leave the ground. They can just give it a little hop. Frogs can literally fly and bounce all over the place.
So we have a frog with Celicia.
Well, there are two there.
Two.
There are two. I've seen one.
Two. Ah, that's the beauty
There's
of them
one right
all.
here.
And that's part of the reason why we don't know much about these animals. They're there in front of our homes, in front of our faces, and sometimes we don't see them.
Wow. And this is a toad?
This is a toad, and you could barely see it inside there. It's disguised.
You can't. You had to point this out. I didn't see them.
Yeah. We see the tree, but it's there right there, nestled in. That's kind of part of their natural behavior. They would hide. They're mainly nocturnal. So they hide and they try to stay cool. They don't want to be in the sun. Because sun and amphibians don't usually go together well unless they're in water.
Yeah, yeah.
So this Mr. Crapo here is just chilling.
He seems to be having some fun as well.
Yeah, he's
he wants
displaying.
To come out.
Yeah, he's quite nicely displaying his athletic ability and his suction ability with his feet holding on and moving and stuff like that. They're really amazing. You know, yes, indeed, they are slimy, as all amphibians are, really. But you know, that is their nature. I mean, if amphibians had come from outer space and they grab the human, they'd be like, oh my gosh, they're so dry and flaky. They need some lubriderm or something. You know. So it's just a different animal and a different perspective on it all.
So what are the 3 species or 2 species or 1? It's 2.
3.
3. Okay, great. So Celicia, who is with you?
So I have the milky tree frog that's in the corner here that you can barely see because he's tiny. And then we have the banana tree frog.
Any particular reason why we call them milky tree frog or banana tree frog?
Oh, their names stand a lot of reasoning behind them. The milky is, well, definitely when you hold it, it secretes a very tacky, sticky, milky-like substance from its back and its skin as a deterrent to predators.
So it's a condensed milk tree frog.
You understand? Yeah. Thick, real thick. True carnation style. Take your time and pour it from the tin kind of thing there. It is horrible. It's a horrible feeling. And even when you try to wash it off, it will not wash off like milk because it has that sort of ladly or sticky effect to it. So it's really,
kind of like paint, isn't it?
Huh?
Kind of like paint.
You can't just wash it off. It really gets to you. So we've seen how it affects, us, and what I've seen, snakes predating on them. So those snakes have some ability to deal with that. And they say, you can try what you want. We're eating you today. You're my lunch today. So I've seen a parrot snake eating one already, and it was just quite interesting. The frog is bawling away, and he's just chomping away at it, doing his thing.
I'm wondering if we can take him out for them to have a look.
Of course you must take him out. If it jumps on kitten.
We don't need to take them out.
All right, let's start with the toad. Let's start small and then end big.
Start small. That guy is big.
Well, he is, and most likely, I would say it's probably either a small female or big male.
So let's
the females get much bigger.
Hold on, before we take them out, what toad is this?
Huh?
What species of toad is this?
Well, is in the Bufo family. It was Bufo marinas, now it's
Renelia marina.
Why?
Yeah.
They usually change the name as genetic testing comes out and they
find out more.
Yeah.
They know more, they shift them around a bit. But we know the most important thing, it does secrete bufotoxin. It's also known as the cane toad, right?
Yeah.
See, you know that, right?
Yeah.
Why would you know about bufotoxin?
Because of my dogs.
Oh, okay, very good.
Right.
Because of my dogs.
And most trainees know them because of that, and they've gotten a bad reputation because of that.
Yeah, but cane toads generally have a bad reputation because they basically eat any and everything.
Yes.
Anything that can fit in their mouth is dinner.
Excellent. I'm just going to take a step back right here because my fingers are a little
right. But the thing is that in some countries where they introduce them, again in our limited foresight, introduce them all over the place. They will help to remove pests.
I think, was it some country in Asia, I can't recall, they introduced, was it India that they introduced the cane toad? And they just basically wiped out everything.
Australia is having a major problem
It's
now.
Australia, it's not India, it's Australia,
Major problem with these guys. They get humongous. And a lot of Australia's native fauna are small. So you're just gobbling up little stuff all around the place, leading to extinction of some of the animals. It's bad. It's really bad. But what happens down here in Trinidad is that people would encounter these animals. Here we go, little guy there. And I like them. You hold them there, and I have a little tickle I do on them sometimes. And they kind of wiggle their feet sometimes when you tickle them. Or sometimes they pee. But yeah, they'll blow up. That's part of their defense mechanism also. Taking air. If I'm too big, you can't kidnap me. So that's what you see, it's kind of bloated there right now. So puffy belly and so on like that there. Slight webbing on the back feet. because they're not really the big water frog type thing, you know. They will, you know, traverse some water, but they're mainly comfortable on land and in soil, hiding under stuff. But the main thing, this bufo has a bufotoxin gland, and that's what affects dogs and affects humans also. So right here behind the eyes, these elevated areas right there, those are the bufotoxin area. And when he's annoyed,
you see these guys in Trinidad all the time.
yeah. Well, you don't pay attention to them. Look at, if one thing you notice, they have some of the most beautiful eyes that you would ever encounter. The eyes are really, really lovely.
They look like those wonderful marbles that used to picture.
Yes, yes. Yeah. That really, really amazing look there. So these glands here, these elevated glands here, you know, and I know he's comfortable because he's not secreting. He was just okay to blow up because I held him. But they would secrete that milky substance, which is the bufotoxin. And when your dog grabs it, and like, whoa, I like that. Goes again, whoa, man, that was good. By the third or fourth time, the level of toxicity would have built up in the dog's system that he goes into a type of shock and can possibly die.
And that can affect humans as well, you said?
It can affect humans as well, of course. Any toxin in the right amount at the right time can go from wonderful to deadly.
Okay.
So people do engage in this because it's a powerful hallucinogen. You look in this and you see...
So that is... you know, there was this big thing at one point, I know in the States, where people were actually licking toads. And
correct.
This is what we're speaking.
Correct, correct. I actually worked at a pet shop in the marine department, the aquatic department, and I sold quite a lot of these there. And, you know, and I was always, wow, you guys have zoology lab and so on. And they said, no, we have a little party tonight. And tragically, you know, especially in Florida, quite a lot of teenagers at college succumb and die as a result of the, you know, and many don't die, but quite a few have died, notably so, but many of them end up in hospital. The bufotoxins are powerful.
Yeah, don't lick no frogs.
They're powerful.
Yeah, just don't lick no frogs. But this guy, like, he doesn't want to smile at all.
Yeah, he's just a little
looking
chill,
directly at me like...
chill guy, you know. So this is one of the most commonly ran over animals on the road.
Yes.
When you see them flat, I had a little collection at one point in time there with the different sizes and so on there, and it's just amazing.
I'll be honest with you, these guys get everywhere. Their numbers are incredible.
Yes.
Yeah. Because they produce quite a lot of eggs, and they're adaptable.
Right, so eggs, and that they carry on their backs as well? Or?
No, not this particular one. We do have that one, the Suriname toad here in Trinidad that has the babies coming out of the back. And if you're some of these people who have a phobia for buttons and so on, there, it will freak you the heck out. But these guys here, the foam that you see in the water and the strings of eggs, these are their normal way of reproducing.
We could put him back inside now.
Right. You know, when he wants to come by you,
it's okay. I'll do it at the end.
You know, would you like to say it closer?
No, not on air. Maybe after this show.
You know, you will take a picture with him, though.
Sure, of course. I'll take a picture with him.
Will you kiss him?
No. Okay, we just said don't lick frog. Why am I putting my lips near to the frog?
You never know what potential, what you might unlock with your magical kiss.
By the way, guys, this is not. Before I respond to that, this is not mountain chicken. Okay. So just bear that in mind.
This is a toad. Mountain chickens are frogs, and they're much bigger.
They are huge.
They have some amazing legs on them, I tell you that.
Yeah. Still contemplating whether or not I actually want to eat mountain chicken.
I'm going to try it.
You will?
When I get to Dominica, I must try it.
Okay.
You know.
Great. In the meantime, nice meeting you, father. You can go back inside and have
all right, yeah. Don't go smoking anybody's pipe, as they say.
Just
all right, so you'll settle down in the corner here. I'll just get him a little thing to hide under, and he'll feel safe. And then we cover him.
These guys really, though, I mean, you see them all the time. And they could be quite fast when they're ready.
Yeah.
They could be quite fast when they're ready.
Literally hop-alongs. They hop along quite quickly.
No, we don't have much time to take out any more frogs.
Oh, yes, we do.
We don't.
This one might be more well behaved. He wants to come out.
All right, so we have the banana frog here, who's quite jumpy, and then we have the milky. Yeah, you're telling me to pick up the one that I least would want. Look at that ability.
Okay, I can see him now. I can see the milky tree. Oh, I've seen that milky tree frog many a times before.
Oh, yeah, this is quite common.
Yeah, I've seen them. Oh.
Right, you see all these guys just holding on. Look at those lovely webbed feet. He does it.
Look
at that.
He's got what's that on your nose? Look at your eyes. You've got like black pearls. Wow.
Yes, amphibians usually have some amazing eyes.
Wow, that is incredible.
They really, you know, and the thing is they eat so many insects and pests that people don't appreciate it. And I'm here to appeal to people, especially women out there, We know you would have had many interactions with some of your exes and so on in the past. You'd have kissed them and they did not turn into princes. But that's no reason to take out your angst and disgust on these poor creatures. This is not your ex. Okay, leave them alone. Stop, please, stop putting salt on these animals.
Yeah.
Okay? If you have your dog, you can train your dog to leave these animals alone. Or one thing you should not do is leave dog food out at night. People are like, oh, they always come in and eating the dog food. Okay, you put the dog food out during the day, the dog doesn't eat, and you want to leave it overnight for the dog to eat it the next day, pick it up, put it in the refrigerator or something.
I'll be very honest with you, actually. My dogs, like, they don't interact with the toads at all. Because I tend to panic when it's raining and all of a sudden you see like 2 or 3 frogs in your yard and you try to get rid of them, not killing them, not throwing salt. I just basically try to take a shovel and scoop them away. But they don't seem to interfere with the frogs at all. In fact, I had a frog would come every night and sit in the dog pool that was full of water. That Greendot will come every night and the dogs just didn't bother with it.
Many dogs are that on that level of intelligence and understanding.
And then they just have some dogs that will chew every single thing from concrete to...
Yeah, so that tells you of the diminished brain capability of some of them.
But back to what you were saying, do not throw salt on these...
You know, ladies, it's like someone coming up to you and throwing acid on your body. These are amphibians. They have semi-porous skin and, you know, very sensitive. And it's very painful. They die eventually, but they suffer an excruciating death. It's just not right to do. And why would you do that? Okay, other than it might have reminded you of your ex that didn't convert into a prince. But the fact is, these animals are helping us tremendously. Would you like to hear a list of this guy's food? What they eat?
I would love to hear this. You said a
people
list,
think
so
everybody's Kermit and they eat flies. You know, most frogs are out at night. Flies are not usually on their diet, but if they encounter them, they will eat it. Anything that will fit in their mouth will become food. So let's start with stuff we see around the home. Well, besides your dog food, your cat food left out, roaches, locusts, crickets, mole crickets, different types of ants, scorpion, centipede, mice.
Scorpions as well?
Scorpion, centipede, mice. I have witnessed
mice.
A large crapple at the last center, sitting there and sort of rocking back and forth by a hole. And out comes a baby rat, actually, and he just gobbles him up. Just like that. I was in shock. He knew they were there, and they were coming up, whatever reason they were coming up, and he was just gobbling them up.
Wow.
So when you see that, I know, you complain from ladies, most ladies say they don't like to see the tutu on the step in the morning. But that tutu on the step in the morning represents what that animal would have eaten overnight. So all that stuff that animal would have eaten, would you rather just scoop up some poop or wash it down, or have to deal with rats, mice, scorpion, centipede, you name it, any of the creepy crawlies around your house, they will eat.
Wow, that is incredible.
And because of the size, they consume a lot.
Yeah. And he's actually small. I've seen some bigger ones to that.
Yeah.
I mean, oh yeah.
The females.
Why are the females always bigger than the males?
Well, they have to, well, the males ride on their back until the female gets to the appropriate breeding ground for depositing, and she would deposit amass thousands of eggs, and then he would fertilize the eggs, and then they go about their way. So sometimes when you find them, sometimes up to a week and more, the male is attached to the female's back and they're going around.
Wow.
You're not doing the wild thing.
You've seen that actually a number of times. I've seen on the roadway as well, trying to cross the roadway, one small frog on top of a big frog. And that's exactly what we
Yep. Wow. I'll go with you until we find the best place to deposit the next generation.
That's love.
Mother Nature.
Really much in love or very horny.
Mother Nature has programmed it for survival.
The next, before we wrap up, because he was really excited to come out. I'm glad he's calmed down a bit. The milky tree frog, though, I have seen many a time. You really want to touch him, given... Boy, you really love our viewers, don't you?
He's a little more calm.
I hope so, because...
No, he's more calm than the banana.
Right, so the milky tree frog.
I've seen that.
Quite common around our homes,
Yeah.
little gardens and so on like that there.
You'd actually be fortunate enough if you see it, though, because if
They
you're saying
blend
they're
right
quite
in.
common, yeah, they blend right in. Yeah, I've seen him. Hello there.
Right, and again, they have some of the most, I think this guy says bluish eye. The eye color seems to change sometimes with mood and stuff like that. They're just really, really amazing creatures.
You're setting him
So
up.
he's getting ready to go.
There you go, he's jumped.
Right, don't worry, he'll be all right down there. Forget that. Right, so now that he's gone, we have to get the other guy out.
Guys, that's it. We're good. Oh, come on. He was excited. Can we just, like...
He'll calm down, right? So he'll come out here, you know. We're here to educate the public. Look at those back legs. Look at those legs. Lovely long, look at those lovely long legs. Right, okay, come on. Here we go. He wants to hop about. I'm going to give him a nice little surface to be on, and he'll just stay calm, right?
No, he's not.
He's going to stay calm.
Yeah, but I
He'll
wouldn't stay calm.
Right. So, this is our... the banana frog. Quite gorgeous. And they all... All right. So now we're left with one more guest here on set. And we're lucky that it's a toad, because toads don't get off the ground. They don't jump. All right. So let's get Mr. Crapo out.
Oh my God. I think we're out of time. We've gone over time. And now my studio is full of frogs.
That means you won't have any insects, less mosquitoes, no roaches, you know. Okay, yeah, so here we go. Oh yeah, and he's making a nice little sound for you there too. Hitan, here we go.
Yeah, could we just...
aim him that way too.
Yeah, because that frog seems to be running away.
Right. So these are part of our natural ecosystem here in Trinidad. These are Trinis, and they serve an important role, right? So you know there's a saying, right? Let me see how I can censor it for the air. As tight, when something is tight, you say it's as tight as a crapo's boom boom. You've heard that before?
No, but
as tight
this morning.
As tight as a crapo's bottom. That's the saying. That's the actual saying.
That's probably how I am right now, given the fact that we've got frogs.
I have sought and I found the answer to where did you come up with that? Did somebody do an analysis to determine the elasticity of the rectum of a frog to come up with that saying? And my uncle explained it to me quite simply. He says, whenever you see a frog run over on the road, you always see his guts come out his mouth, never his bum. That tells you how tight his rectum is, that everything must come through the mouth.
Yeah, I've never done that.
You've never heard that saying?
I've never seen that.
You've never seen that?
I've never seen that.
You see, you've never examined enough roadkill. Roadkill is one of my favorite things to examine. Really, I do stop almost anywhere and take a look and see what it is. And, you know, try to understand what we have here in the country, right? So Mr. Froggy here, and the other one is just hopping all over the place there. You know.
Goodness.
I hope your next guest like frogs.
I'll put it this way, before we lose the frogs, guys, because oh my goodness, he's really... I think we're going to have to call it a day there, because we've got to do some frog hunting before the next show. So, Celicia, Ricardo, thank you very much for coming out once more.
Anytime, you know, thank Froggy too.
And if I feel any frogs on my foot...
Like Crapo. Well, if you feel any frog, Crapo, smoke your pipe.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been AM Prime. Have a good day. We're going frog hunting. Bye-bye.
WESN.
I am Sule A. Joseph, and we are WESN, Content Capital.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
We are WESN, the premier platform for Caribbean content. WESN, covering West, East, South, and North. WESN, we entertainment, sports, and news. WESN, available on Greendot 7, Amplia 118, Airlink 17, Bmobile 107, Digicel 21, ICNTT 105, and Flow 110. Connect with us at WESNCC or stream online at www.wesncc.com. WESN, your premier platform for Caribbean content.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
It's a cold winter evening, and a small group of pacifists have gathered in the Parisian suburb of Les Ulis.
Given the sacrifices of Palestinian and Israeli civilians, we must have an immediate and lasting ceasefire.
Attending the weekly vigil is 95-year-old Marie-France. She and her family were part of the resistance fighting Nazis. She witnessed first-hand violence on French soil and hopes it never returns.
There's a need for tolerance. You need to get along with people who aren't 100% in agreement with you, but with whom you share an ideal of solidarity.
They all believe in the need to prevent tensions from spilling over to France.
Here in France, some say there's no difference between Hamas and Palestinians, and no difference between French Jews and the Netanyahu government. We, on the other hand, want to see a new kind of society where dialogue is possible and hate isn't stirred up on both sides.
Dia struggles sometimes to get her message across to the young generations. She's organised a workshop in a nearby community centre. Everyone here has an opinion.
Absolutely nothing can justify the massacres and war crimes currently taking place. Hamas is committing horrible acts, but it's a terrorist group. The Israeli army, however, is supposed to be the army of a state that belongs to the United Nations.
You can surely understand Israel's retaliation after what happened with that atrocious attack. The thousands of Israelis targeted and many civilians massacred by Hamas on October 7th. It really shook me. But what really infuriates me is to see Israel indiscriminately bombing Gaza. It's no solution.
These youths follow closely the news, mostly on social media.
Look at how fast information flows without any checks on social media, especially on Twitter or X as it's known since Elon Musk bought it. There's less and less control regarding sources, and it's a catalyst for what is most violent and bad.
NGO SOS Racisme monitors hate speech online. A difficult task given their limited resources and the many platforms.
Racists and anti-Semitic groups are all over social media. Yes, that's her.
That's an influencer who posted a video on the October 7th massacre when she joked about Israeli babies being eaten with salt and baked in ovens.
Their team of 5 people reports those inciting hatred and violence for prosecution.
We notice more